You figured it out.
Figured it out.
Good work.
All right, guys, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
So the intent of this meetup, guys, is just simply to, stay connected and stay informed and, be plugged into the changes that are happening daily. And again, just as a group, continue to support each other in a place that we can come and ask questions and hopefully get some answers. And if we don't have the answers with everybody on the line this week, we will follow up and get those answers and post those in Seattle Investors Club, and of course bring those to the following week as well. So there is a chat box there if anybody wants to type in questions and things like that. If you don't feel like talking, if you feel like talking when you're ready to talk, just simply unmic yourself and talk. But if you're not talking, leave your mic off so don't get your background noise, please. We're kind of just winging this to make sure that everybody, instead of listening to a panel or something like that, has an opportunity to speak and ask their questions. So this week, I think, one of the hot topics, I'm just going to kick it off here and we can all start chiming in and see where this takes us, though, is, of course, I think the topic of the moment is this Paycheck Protection Act and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. I assume that all of you have, heard something about this or are wanting to know more about this in regards to relief that might be available for you in your personal situation. I am getting my information from our friend Jeff Watson, who is an attorney out of Ohio. And, many of you know who Jeff is as one of the leading national voices on legal wholesaling and how to invest with your self-directed IRA as an investor and other things. He's part of the Seller Finance Coalition fighting for us in Washington, D.C. And so forth. So Jeff Watson and Greg Clement of RealFlow have a new website that I recommend that you guys all check out. It's called InvestorShift.com, and it is specifically built to help people that are in the real estate industry with updated information. Some of you and many of you may have listened to Jeff and Greg's webinar a few days ago, but if you have not heard that webinar, I reposted it, the replay, on the Seattle Investors Club Facebook page. And I highly recommend that you guys, if you're not up to date yet on how the Paycheck Protection Act and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan relate to you, then listen to that webinar. Go ahead, William, go ahead and talk.
Sure. So I just put on the group chat, the US Chamber came out with a very easy to read PDF, and there's a link on there. You have to go onto that web page, and then about halfway down, there's another link to the actual PDF.
Over the years, I think the marina itself is on like a
guys, Aaron, I think that's you, Aaron.
or something. So
please, we can hear you talking. If you do not turn your mic off, if you're
I just
not
muted him
in the conversation. All right, there you go. Go ahead, Willem. Start over. We can't hear what you said.
Thank you, Joe. So I just put, if you look at the group chat, there is a link to the US Chamber. They've produced a PDF that is very simple and easy to understand about the Paycheck Protection Program. So I just want to clarify to people, there's actually two main things that we can do at the moment. There was the original Economic Injury Disaster Loan. So this is a loan that's a 3.75% interest rate up to 30 years, and it is not forgivable. What the CARES Act created was the Payroll Protection Program. So if you have payroll, this is something you've absolutely got to look at doing. So basically what the loan amount is 2.5 times your average payroll amount. You get that, it's I believe it's a 4% maximum interest rate on it. However, it is forgivable. So it is basically free money as long as you fit the criteria.
Well, I
So-
think you have to spend the money in order for it to be forgivable. Let's say you got 20,000 and you spent it on payroll, utilities, rent, and mortgage. You have to prove that you spent it on that. And if you don't spend it all on that, the portion that you didn't spend, I think, would not be forgivable.
Correct. So it's basically in the 8-week period from the beginning of the loan origination, and this is section 4 on that PDF that I referenced. It's payroll costs, interest on mortgage, rent on a lease agreement, utilities, and for borrowers with tipped employees, I'm not going to go into that because I don't think anybody has got tipped employees on here. And so, you know, if you're using it, if your payroll is the same this year as last year and you still have those people on the payroll, the entire amount is going to be used up on that payroll, other than, you know, maybe your mortgage or your lease. Everybody's got that. I mean, I'll give you a classic example. This is open for nonprofits as well. The Rental Housing Association can apply for it. And we're keeping everybody on the payroll at the moment. And I mean, just our rent payment on it is going to make it virtually all forgivable.
One
so
thing that
that's
I've also
definitely-
heard,
Sorry,
one
go.
thing that I've also heard is that that they're only going to be able, they're projecting there's so many people that are going to apply for this that they may only be able to cover up to, you know, 30% of the people that apply. That's what I read. I don't know if that's true or not, but the point of me saying that is that if you're going to go for it, you need to act immediately. And I don't know if again, I will promise you this webinar hosted by Jeff Watson that I posted on SIC is it goes into extreme detail about who can do what and all the full discussion on that, which is very, very detailed. And I again recommend that. One thing I want to point out is that, and maybe William or everybody else can pipe in on this, applying for these loans starts tomorrow. So starting April 3rd, which is tomorrow, small businesses and sole proprietors can apply through existing SBA lenders. And starting April 10th, so next Friday, independent contractors and self-employed people can start applying. And you can apply through June 30th. But it's weird. I read it as though the money has to also be spent by June 30th. Is that?
It's got to be spent within 8 weeks of the origination of the loan.
You gotta spend it quick.
Right. So
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this is to get the money back out into the economy and keep the economy going. So they want
So-
that money spent in the next 2 months.
Kevin, go ahead and speak up if you want. Ackerman.
Yes, so from what I've been reading recently is that the bipartisan agreement is to increase the funds if that 349 billion is depleted. So that fund is probably not going to be enough to suffice like all the different loans that are coming into transactions right now. So if that fund is depleted, then from my understanding is that the Senate will go ahead and approve the next round of lending for extra funds.
Right. And so the moral of the story here, guys, is go get the documents that you need. Does that mean that we need to have our 2019 tax returns completed? No? What's the
No.
word on that?
No, you
Nope.
don't have to have them completed to apply for this. That is not a requirement.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Erez, if you want to speak up.
Hey, how are you?
I noticed that.
Keith?
Hey, okay, so in one of my businesses, like I just got an, I won't say the name. I just got notification from a major retailer that now they are going to be taking 60-day terms. I have another one say that they were going to take 90-day terms. And there's like a daisy chain effect here, not just for businesses like the one that where we service retail, but others as well. So I'm looking at I'm communicating with all my clients on that side, talking to them, small businesses all around, and I'm wondering, can they use like the economic disaster recovery loans, not the CARES Act, but the economic disaster recovery loans, to consolidate debt that they were carrying to try to make themselves more healthy, to buy themselves a longer runway, is one question. And then for those of us who have multiple companies, multiple businesses, and even if we have multiple LLCs that we pay ourselves out of, if it doesn't consolidate up to an LLLP or something like that, can we apply for multiple S Corps that we own, for instance, or C Corps?
Does anybody know the answer on that? Or maybe that's something we can follow up on. Luckily, I'm lucky enough to have a direct relationship with Jeff Watson. So I think we're going to have some extra intel that we can ask Asung with Mariska and Larry helping with us as that as well. So I don't know the answer to that question.
So
But it's a good question.
my understanding on that is you can apply for any number of businesses that you own. So if you have 3 different companies that have payroll, you can apply for each of them. It's not a one per social security number. It's one per business, is my understanding of it.
Is part of it going to have to be how it shows up on your Schedule C or whatever on determining what you're eligible for or not? Does that come into play at all?
Well, your eligibility is based on the payroll cost. And keep in mind that it excludes payroll for anybody that's compensated more than $100,000 a year. So, you know, I give you an example.
From that one LLC or the total?
So each individual company can apply for it, but your maximum amount that you can get is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll, but you've got to exclude that 100,000. So if you have if you're a sole proprietor and you paid yourself $101,000 last year, you can't get anything out of this.
But William, specifically what you're talking about right there with the 2.5 times, if I'm understanding correctly when I'm reading it, is the CARES Act. People
Correct.
also have the option to apply for economic disaster recovery as well.
Correct.
Separately.
Very,
It's a different thing.
two very
And
separate,
then, so I
two
talked
very
with my
separate
SBA
programs.
lender. To
Any word from
completely. So when I talked to my SBA lender, what he and I talked about was, he said, look, go and apply for an economic disaster, and then we'll try to refinance a portion of that under CARES as well. But definitely go for the other one first, because for your employees, the business, the building, all of that stuff. And then for the portion of that, that's some of the other stuff that falls under CARES, you can do that. What wasn't clear was with our other businesses, because they all fall down under the same individual tax at the end of the year, whether or not I could apply for multiple things, because we pay ourselves from different spots.
Go ahead, Kevin Ackerman.
So from my understanding there on that is, like I said earlier on the text, you can apply for each entity up to 10 million, and that would be for the economic relief. The 7A, the benefit on that one is that it is forgivable, both the payroll and your rent and utilities. So it works out pretty well to apply for that 7A first. And then if you don't get the amount that you need to cover your basis, you can always apply for the economic relief after that.
So the word that I say, well, you cannot use the funds for the same purpose. Like if you get approved for the Paycheck Protection Act and you get approved for the economic injury loan, you cannot use the funds for the same purpose. You'll have to drop out of one, essentially.
Well, don't double dip. I think if you're using them for separate things, as I'm understanding, you can do both.
I'm not sure if that's completely clear. I was on another call the other day and it sounds like it's going kind of back and forth. So I think that they haven't really made it totally clear yet. I think you can apply for both, but you may at some point need to make a decision of which one is going to work best for your situation.
If you get one, it will prevent you from getting the other. And I think there's going to be some documentation when you secure that loan that says that you did not, you're going to have to certify that you didn't get the other, something like that. But again, the best resource, we can all share great resources on where we're getting the best information about this, because we certainly don't want to use this forum to give incorrect information, right? So we're talking about it, but I just want a disclaimer and say, you guys need to go and also verify this information elsewhere. And where I am personally doing that is through investorshift.com with Jeff Watson. And that is where I'm taking my lead. And I just want to make sure that you guys go check out the investorshift.com website, only just because it's purposefully there specifically for people in real estate around this entire discussion. Some of you might already been on that the other day or not. Does this apply in any way to 1099s? Yes. Yes, it does, Christopher Garnett. The bright light in the window washes you out. Pull the shade. Thanks, Gordon. All right. So I'll do that. So what else is going on? Do we have anybody here that is in the,
actually, just really
go ahead.
quick, do we know what the criterion is for being a seasonal employer? And then also, will this apply for household employers?
I missed what you said because I was pulling the shade. Say it again.
Yeah, so a seasonal employer allows you can either take the full year, or if you apply as a seasonal employer, you can take February 15th or March 1st through June 30th. So that's one question. Do you know what the criterion is to be a seasonal employer? Does anyone know? And the second thing is as a household employer. So can we apply as a household employer separately for our nanny?
I don't think you can apply as a household employer because of the definitions that you have to be a small business. And I don't think they'll class a household as being a business.
I'm just writing these questions down, Katrina, and we'll do some follow-up on this because I don't know the answer myself.
On the other hand, I'm guessing the nanny does not have any sort of entity, but even
Well,
as a
you
sole
have to,
proprietor.
it's a separate tax ID. You've got your separate tax ID and your UBI. So you
So,
still have to register, but it's a different classification.
yeah, so the nanny might be able to apply for something.
Yeah.
Let's move on past this topic and know that it's what I would love to hear from you guys maybe next week is if anybody's applied and what the process was and
Payroll
how that
protection
process
thing
was.
that we can apply for as well. They're saying not to double dip. I want to look at that after they're done talking. I mean, basically just saying the same thing. If you read that stuff about the,
Maybe you could mute yourself.
as long as you use it for the
Hey, Ryan. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, guys, so we would love for you to come back next week for those of you that are going to be jumping on this tomorrow with your SBA lenders and give us some feedback. Kai, you can talk if you want, if you have some feedback for us. We want to hear as you're applying for these loans, what the information is that you guys are getting from your SBA lenders. And that would be great, something to put up on the board for next week to discuss. But go ahead, Kai, if you have something to say. Okay, I'm going to move on. So are there any landlords out there? Are there any property managers out there today? If you're a property manager, can you speak up for a second?
Yep.
Okay, so I
For
mean,
our own.
I'm just trying to start the conversation here. Is anybody, what's the feedback that people are getting from their existing tenants? Or I also want to hear from anybody that's doing any leasing right now. Are they having any success with leasing, or are you all just focused on collecting your rents right now?
All of our tenants have paid.
What price point are your rents at, Katrina?
1,500 to 2,000.
Has anybody not had people paying so far?
Yeah, so we had one person who's a tattoo artist and also a musician, and he got in touch with us a couple of weeks ago, basically saying his income had gone to zero. So we worked out a deferred payment plan with him. And then I have a 4-bedroom house that's rented out to a bunch of 30-somethings, and 3 of the 5 people living there have been furloughed. Interesting enough, they got in touch with me, and the first one that was furloughed was like, I'm applying for unemployment. I don't think April's going to be an issue. He called up yesterday saying, 2 other people have been furloughed. And we just went through it, and his ask was, can I pay on the 7th instead of the 5th? And I was like, of course you can. The interesting thing was the additional $600 for unemployment for those 3 people that have been laid off is going to help significantly. Plus, all 5 of them are going to be getting the $1,200. And he said, May's not going to be an issue. June, we're going to save some of the additional money to put towards June's rent. So as long as this thing clears up by the end of June, they don't feel as though there's any issue there. One thing I have been seeing, though, is on the Section 8, I've been getting a lot of reduced copay letters from the housing authorities. I've got quite a few Section 8 tenants, and typically they're paying anywhere between about $150 to about $400 for the ones that have any sort of income. And a lot of those are being dropped to their basic minimum of $20. So one of the things in the CARE Act was a significantly large amount of money going to the housing authorities because they're going to need that additional funding.
What is anybody else experiencing with tenants?
We've been lucky. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, we've been lucky. We have I just checked in with our Florida property manager, the 5 units that we have there. Nobody's employed in the service sector. They're between universities, Anheuser-Busch. Everybody's set, good to go, which surprised me because it's in a very hip area, and I was sure that we had some people that were affected in hospitality. But that one's okay. South Tacoma, they're okay, but that one scares me. And those are all rent price points right around $1,000 a month. Then in Renton, we're at $2,000 a month. Longshoreman, he's fine. Everybody else is in the $3,000 a month range, and they've all paid. They're just working from home, happy. And then the commercial building, the barber has paid, the hairdresser is not, the municipality paid, and we've paid.
Yeah, my Pittsburgh properties, they're right on trend as well. So we're doing okay so far this month. So fingers crossed. So
I think I think it was Bob Thomas that I saw a post somewhere that he said he wasn't worried about April, but he was starting to worry more about like May or June. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves and how these payments come in and unemployment comes in, and if that actually gaps it. Anybody else share your experiences with your renters? Anybody else?
Just one other quick one. I have a mobile home park, and the lot rents are $260 a month. That $1,200 per adult is going to pay a lot of lot rent for very many months when they're only paying $260 a month. And most of them have got at least one kid at home. So they're looking at somewhere around $2,900 check from the government. It's going to pay their rent for the rest of the year.
I'm concerned about people not receiving the unemployment and how long it's taking for them to begin receiving their benefits. So while we're on track now, there's some people who've made an application like 3 weeks ago and still haven't received anything yet. So that may catch up with us really soon.
My Memphis property, the gal called and said that she was going to be short of funds because her hours have been cut back from 40 to 32. But otherwise, my other rental properties are doing okay. As far as employment status goes, this is kind of an amusing story, and I'm chasing a rabbit a minute, is my son-in-law got laid off from his maintenance job at a apartment complex in Silverdale. And inside of 2 days, he had 5 job offers from other areas, not for maintenance, but he wanted to get into welding. So he's got one for welding. He's got one for, actually it is another property manager in the area that's got 2 complexes that they need somebody. And then he got 3 other job offers. So there's things still going on out there. Oh, one of them's in beverage distribution, which is an essential business right now. And so they're eager to have him come back to them. So that's what's going on as far as I know. My place in Warren, Michigan, that one, there's got an email from the property manager there. Thousands of people are out of work. But so far, for lucky me, my people are still going to be able to pay their rent for a period of time. It's unknown how long, but that's all I've got.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the benefits, if we're able to check in here with each other weekly, if you're so kind to join us, is to just almost be able to see if we're all, right now, it's interesting that most of you are saying all seems to be okay for this month right now, or not feeling a lot of pain right now, but I do find value in the group here that as we meet weekly, you know, even if you can just jump on for a minute, just the collective responses, maybe we'll be able to, you know, help each other see like a wave or a trend starting to happen, which is, you know, what the value of this group is meant to be. You know, as William points out here, there's a lot of resources available for renters and owner rental housing association of Washington. On the website there, we can go ahead and, William, maybe you can post that on the Seattle Investors Club website. If you guys can't all see the chat box, maybe here at the end. But access the resources forms which are member only. So anybody else have any feedback?
Yeah,
I listed.
Go ahead.
So I did list my fourplex in Queen Anne for rent last week, and we haven't had a single application or any inquiries. And I spoke with the property management company. It's Walls Property Management. They property manage like 800 units in that area. And they've had a pretty tough time leasing stuff out with the shelter in place. No one wants to leave to go, you know, look at new rental properties.
Have they done any video walkthroughs of the property or anything like that to present it? What have they done creatively to present it differently?
Video walkthroughs and photos.
I also
Are they
have
posting them on Zillow? Have they gotten any responses?
They've posted them on like all the 3 units on about 50 different sites. And they have pretty, they get pretty good responses from their marketing, but this has just been a tough week. So I'm actually already planning on updating the units more and reducing the rents. Because I think we are, like, going back to my point from last week too, people were having great success with their flips, so did I. But Jay Scott in a webinar yesterday put it amazing, where he said it's like jumping off a cliff and not looking down, but the minute you look down, you're falling down. So, you know, we're going to get to that point in a month or two. So anything you can do to kind of better support yourself within that time frame before shit hits the fan, you know, would be best.
Yeah, I also have a condo unit available in Ballard, right in the sweet spot of Ballard. Luckily, my tenants were paying, my tenants moved out to buy a house, actually, take advantage of these low rates and so forth. And so it's been on for a little bit, and I am getting some traffic off of it. But most of the people, and I've got the video tour available, and I send that to them, and they're asking me all their questions. And right now, most of them are wanting to move in several months, not immediately. And so what does anybody think about that? Would you take a deposit if somebody wanted to move in, you know, in June 1st? Would you take that deposit right now?
No.
What do you guys say? No? Katrina, you're
No.
saying no?
No,
You're putting all your eggs in one basket.
I'd do a holding agreement.
How does that work, William?
You know, this is like the most not used thing, and it is a hugely powerful tool for landlords. So basically, you can take do a holding agreement, and you can basically turn around and say no to the tenant. but they're committed with their security deposit. So if they back out, you keep the holding agreement
Forfeit it.
fee.
Right. Yes.
But if you find somebody else in the meantime that will take it sooner, do you have the option?
I believe so. Let me, I'm just going to pull up the holding agreement form.
Are you able to get us one of those holding agreement forms, William, that we can share?
Yeah, let me.
And any tenant that you have that's moving out, that's giving you notice right now, one of the things that we've done in the past is if they've already vacated, but it's still during their lease, a vacation rental agreement, so that we don't need to give notification when we access the property. It just grants us access to be able to go in, which has worked out both ways. Another thing that we just did today, when I talked to our Florida property manager, I offered everybody, being that nobody was really affected by this, we still said, look, you know, if they're not impacted directly, maybe their spouse, girlfriend, family member, whatever has been. So we offered a marginally reduced rent for a 1-year extension on their leases as well, if they're feeling secure in their job, just to kind of help out a little bit and also give us more security.
Has anybody had rent not paid this month? That's good.
Not only
Anybody-
we had rent paid, and I think that there's probably going to be a difference between, you know, like we have mostly white collar in our rental properties, and then very much blue collar in our notes that we hold, so they're actually paying a mortgage. So I think that the folks who are particularly in the service industry, those are the ones you're really going to need to watch, you know, the people who are not able to work from home, and, you know, retail and that sort of thing. But if they, like, I talked to one of my tenants and I, you know, was just checking in to say, hey, you know, how are things going? How are you guys holding up? And he goes, oh my gosh, he says, my business is going through the roof, because he helps businesses work virtually. And, you know, that's what everybody's doing nowadays. So he's super busy, you know, and then others who are doing fine. I wonder if, you know, for folks who have, say, single families, this obviously isn't going to work for apartments, but who have single family residences, that maybe if you're open to, you know, at some point selling the property, doing a lease with an option to buy or a lease purchase or something like that, which again, they're going to have a little bit different mindset. I would imagine if I were a tenant and I would just want to sit tight until this is over. But if I was looking for an opportunity to get into a home that I might one day be able to buy, that might be a little different. And so, you know, you could collect a non-refundable option consideration, and you could negotiate a move-in date, you know, something like that. So that might be an option in these interesting times.
No doubt. I think these options are going to be huge going forward here. How about Aaron? Are you there, Aaron Renfrew? He's walked away from the camera for a minute. Anybody else want to? Hey, Aaron, there you are. He's on the phone. I think he's on the phone. Gotcha. Okay. Come back to us. What else do you guys want to talk about today? I want to say that Matthew Gardner, who is a local economist, is actually Windermere's economist, is putting out a weekly video. If you guys haven't seen that yet, jump on YouTube and subscribe to Matthew Gardner's YouTube channel and get an update there from him weekly on, you know, the economy and the housing market. Go ahead, Lika.
Yeah, it's Monday mornings. I actually spoke with him yesterday and he is just amazing. The guy is so knowledgeable. I highly recommend it. It's like a 10-minute video he posts every Monday. Just go on his YouTube channel and listen to it. It's just a wealth of information.
Speaking of, is there any resources where you all are getting your information from these days that you feel is super valuable? You know, like I said, I recommend everybody just go check out investorshift.com. Obviously the YouTube channel for Matthew Gardner. What else are you guys getting information these days that you feel is good?
A lot of webinars, I think, that, you know, Tal hosts. We're actually hosting one tomorrow. If you guys haven't signed up, you should. We have some amazing speakers. It's the Real Estate at Work virtual meetup. So similar format to this, but we also are interviewing speakers. Yeah.
Star has recommended a good Barry Habib. If you guys haven't read that article that Barry Habib, she says it's called the MBS Highway. It is very, very interesting to understand the mortgage world if you're interested. One of the benefits of this, I'll say for myself, is that I have become much more educated about lending and the mortgage industry and economics in general. But the Barry Habib Facebook page, or look up the MBS Highway, is super interesting. Thanks, Nee just posted that for us, and we'll grab that, Joe, if you could grab all that stuff and throw it on our Facebook page. Go ahead, Tanya, if you want to unmic yourself. Tanya, if she can't say anything, she says there's a group called Pivot, P-I-V-O-T. Pivot is a group of real estate people from all over the world, lots of people talking about the issues they're facing during this shift. And Joe, I'll send you the link to the Matthew Gardner YouTube channel. William is saying UW's Institute for Health Metrics is an interesting one to watch. Anybody else have anything they want to share?
Yeah, Julie, that's who produces the COVID-19.healthdata.org, which I linked in the text message before. This is about as accurate as you're going to get. And it's really fascinating seeing how well equipped Washington State is actually for this right now compared to other states.
Exactly. Does anybody have any questions? For example, if you're, wondering what to do if you're in the middle of a project, is there anything that anybody has a specific question on that we can help you with as a group, or anything that anybody would like to mention?
Hey, Julie.
Yes, hi. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, this is Thomas. Hey, so I just want to share a little bit. So I don't have as many rentals as some of you, but one thing that my partner and I have worked that kind of worked well for us for the last week is basically just addressing the elephant in the room. And what we do is the tenant understands that. Now, okay, so let's put it this way. Psychologically, when the news coming out that they legally cannot be evicted, every tenant thinks that, it runs in their head that, hey, how can I not pay? Is it true? Is it really, is it cool that I don't have to pay? So what we did is just talk to the tenant in person, not in writing, but in person, and explain to them that, hey, this is how the economy is going. The president's going to send us checks and how things go. If you choose not to pay, that doesn't make that month being waived. That just move it out in the future. And we'll work with you, but you still have to pay it. And the consequence of not paying that is eventually you will have to move out, damaging your credit. And because most of our rentals are below market, you're going to have to find, a market rate rental in a very near future. So all we did is basically just addressing that right up front with them that, hey, everything is shaky, but there is a big consequence in taking advantage of that and just ignoring it and not paying at all, because then winter is coming. Basically, their consequence is going to come. That's going to be a very high cost for them. It's going to affect their credit, which then they can go out and get another favorable term with another rental agency, blah, blah, blah. And so far, knock on wood, we have had 100% cooperation. But, like everybody said, within a month or two, my guess is about as good as the next person. So that's all I have for now.
Thank you for the update. Aaron, you have anything to add to this? Aaron Renfrew?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say that was actually a tenant trying to negotiate with me right now on not being able to pay everything. I've had a few people be somewhat hostile about the fact that they can't pay and be kind of aggressive, like threatening
Aaron.
Attorneys and stuff. What?
Hey, Aaron, give us a little background on what your background, so everybody can get to know you a little bit.
Real estate broker. I manage properties. I broker, and I also have a portfolio.
Perfect. Go for it.
So yeah, that was just a person that's saying that they can't pay. I've had people say, can I pay half on the 1st, half on the 15th? I've had people say they want out of their lease. I've had people say nothing, which I'm hoping that means that the checks are going to clear kind of thing. But I think kind of the consensus I've gotten on the call here is what I'm getting as well, although I think maybe I've got a few more people that can't pay. I've got some lower end folks that are paying, you know, renting rooms and or 1-bedroom apartments that are under the $1,200 amount. So I think they're probably in the service industry and getting hit maybe a little quicker than some of us. But I think next month is probably going to be rougher than this month. And I've got some people who flat out can't give me a dime right now. They can't even get on a payment plan. So.
And what's your plan? Anticipating this for, you know, the next month, Aaron, what would be your plan that you're considering?
I spent yesterday applying for all the small business loans that I can get or apply for. Spent several hours doing that. I'm going to, I've got a lot of private money lenders that have loaned to me. I'm going to reach out to them at some point, and possibly reach out to my Fannie and Freddie loans as well, and just see what they say as far as just trying to, you know, keep the supply thing going. I think my biggest fear is I've planned ahead so I can weather a month or two. But my concern is I don't know if we're really going to see the economic end of this as quickly as we hope. So I'm maybe even applying for more than I need right now, and I'll just give it back or not use it if I get more than I need.
I mean, yeah, I think we should all be planning for it to take a lot longer and the impacts to reverberate harder than we're anticipating. I can't even imagine that this all clears up in 60 days, you know, and that there isn't, I mean, just plan on it. You know, we had on the podcast, Joe and I yesterday, we had Tim Schultz from Red Cap Group in Redmond, they're commercial real estate guys. And we talked to them about what they're doing. And in regards to commercial real estate, and that'll be coming out here for you guys to listen to, they are requiring, if they are going to be doing any type of negotiation with their tenants, they are requiring that those tenants apply for some of these relief, financial relief packages, and that's part of the process of their lease amendment that they are offering, and that they are also writing a clause into the lease amendment that if that tenant does receive that relief, that they have an opportunity to, we'll use the word, claw back some of the rent reduction that is being offered, right? And so, of course, even on the residential side, maybe looking at your leases, I will call it your stacking plan, so to speak, on which leases are coming up and expiring the quickest. Maybe there's some sense in, you know, obviously getting out in front of those as a priority of working and renegotiating those leases to extend, right? We have other people that are in longer term leases. Legally, they're still in a lease, and yeah, you'll have to work out something with them. But I found that kind of interesting. They've talked to their lenders, and one of their lenders, I think it was Heritage Bank, was willing to shift, instead of no full forbearance payment, is offering just an interest only payment. I thought that was a nice solution, is interest only, right? Because I believe there's going to be a pecking order. You guys all need to think about what your plans are for the future if you plan to borrow money. And I believe that there's going to be, this is just my opinion, that there's going to be some sort of, even though they say they're not going to be reporting this on your credit and so forth, when you go to apply for a loan, as Adrian pointed out last week, they're going to have language in there for you to testify and assert that you did not take the forbearance. And so they're going to get you one way or another on that. And if you need to take it, you need to take it, period, right? But does anybody have anything else to say about that? I find that interesting that they said, hey, guess what? I'll give you a rent break, but I need to see that you're applying for this for yourself. Anybody have a comment about that?
The banks are highly incentivized. Oh, sorry, Larry.
Go ahead.
Okay. The banks are highly incentivized to make these loans. I think they're getting, what is it, 5%? Wasn't that the number that we heard for originating these loans? So I mean, that's huge, you know. So the banks are highly incentivized to be working with borrowers to make these types of loans. That's all I have.
Christopher Garnett has a good question here. Christopher, you want to ask it yourself, or I'll give you a second to unmic yourself if you want to ask it about turning units.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody has any vacancies or units coming up, and what their plan is to turn them.
Great question.
I've got vacancies right now, and my plan is to fill them. I don't know how yet.
Yeah, how are you going to get the labor in there if you have anything, paint, cleaning, whatever?
Well, I've got two assistants that work with me, and out of the two, one's actually got the coronavirus. Thank God he didn't die or anything, but he's now out of intensive care, but now he's still under quarantine for another 10 days. So that's definitely, we're having to hustle and move around to deal with that. So we're just like, tomorrow we're trying to do a showing, and we're going to go to the property 10 minutes ahead of time. It's vacant, so we don't need to worry about belongings. We're going to open the door. I've instructed my assistant to sit in the car while the people tour through, and then when they're done, talk on the phone or whatever, and then she's going to go in and just lock up when they leave. So we're just trying to adjust and make things happen where we can.
Are you going to wipe it down?
Yeah.
Hey, Lala, look at Lala. Thank you, Lala. Lala's on the front lines joining us. There she is, everybody. Give her a big shout out. Thank you, Lala. She's working at, I think, where are you at? Overlake Hospital? Yeah. We appreciate you being on the front lines, and thank you so much for, helping people in need. Shout out to Lala, everybody. Big shout out. Thank you, Lala. Woo! Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lala.
I'm a little teary. I'm a little teary actually right now, guys. Woo.
So
All right.
I've got a comment here. So, just like when there's people are going through a foreclosure, so what do they do when they get mail from the bank? They don't open it. And I think that, there's a lot of people here that we're really working hard to, how can we help our tenants? How can we help our borrowers? And I think, communicating with them and saying, hey, how can we help you? And here's the information that I've gotten from all the webinars and from the groups that I work with. And again, just be their best friend, at this point. Really, it's because a lot of folks really, they're scared. They don't want to open their mail that might be from the bank or from their landlord or whatever, and just reaching out to them. The other thing too is that basically, okay, so if we've got a lot of people that are in our houses that are renting, that maybe, is there some other way that we can work with them as far as like maybe even a barter situation? And I was like, okay, so what do you have that's either a skill or a talent or something that maybe you can come and do some work for me, or do some work on a house or something like that.
That is such a good idea, Larry.
I think that, there's a lot of businesses that are hurting, and we actually run on a group the other day that basically is like, how can we take the situation and help out the businesses? And same thing here. It's like, okay, so you guys, there's a lot of nonprofits that are hurting like crazy right now. If we're to reach out to those nonprofits and say, how can we help you? We know that the situation's terrible here. When we get through this, and we will, they will remember that we were there to at the very least try to help them.
Absolutely, Larry. And that's a good point. Your tenants will also remember. I was thinking about that last week myself, that if I had tenants, I have a lot of needs, the whole barter. Instead, if you can't pay your rent, and I'm going to give you a rent break, but you're like, have tech skills or something like that, or you can help me build a website, or you can, anything that you need, right? What a great way to do an exchange and a barter. What do you guys say about that? Does anybody like that idea?
I love that idea. It gives people the ability to still do what everybody wants to do, what their agreements are. So it gives them the ability to do that and see hope.
You know what would be so cool? Katrina, you're somebody that would do this, and we want you to talk about your Real Kindness group here also for a minute. But wouldn't it be cool? I can tell you it's not going to be me that does it, but I'll throw the idea out there that one of you smarties will do it, where we start some sort of portal where tenants can post, these are my skills, and we can all go in there and pay those tenants for those skills, right? And somehow do an exchange where we have a bunch of, you know, landlords who need services, letting their tenants post on some site, I'm just making this up, where then people pick up and give them work in exchange, then they'll be able to pay some rent. I don't know, I'm just making this up as I talk. Be super cool.
I'm not techie, but that sounds really cool.
It does.
I've
And why
actually-
don't you, while you're on here, why don't you tell us about Real Kindness, Katrina, before we jump off here?
So Real Kindness is a group on Facebook, hashtag Real Kindness. And the idea is to, there's so much negativity and so much uncertainty and fear. So we created a group where you post acts of kindness, things you've done or things you observed other people doing, and whichever post or video gets the most likes every Friday at 10 a.m. wins $1,000. And so we're looking for just community engagement, right? How do we really highlight the things that we want to see more of? Q13 News picked it up. They ran a story Sunday night, and then every day at the 4, 6, and 10 o'clock news, they're highlighting people who posted in the group some kind of kindness, right? That they're now sharing. And so we're looking for anyone who wants to participate. Just ping me, and I'll add you as a moderator, and just, you know, really just get the word out there. It's really cool because as you see, right, we know as we see good things, we have mirror neurons, right? So we experience what it is that we're seeing. And so it's really cool as you're watching this, it just gives you, as you see these posts and the things that people are doing, it just gives you that little, you know, happiness inside.
That's awesome. And congratulations. That's such a great idea. We love it. Everybody go check that out and engage. It'll make you feel good. Some other things that have been posted here in the chat. William's continuing to give us some good links to information. We have the governor's requirement for showing rentals that we will go and put on the Seattle Investors Club Facebook page. If you guys aren't part of our Facebook community, please go jump on there, and we're going to continue during the week to share good stuff here. Lala, are you guys severely short of masks over there? Can you give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, or is there any way for you to let us know what you need? Is there any, how do we even, if we wanted to get, I have, you know, some masks here that I feel like I'd like to hand off to somebody like Lala, for example. Is there a way to do that? Does anybody know a way to do that right now? You don't just show up at a hospital and drop off your masks, I imagine. They don't want you doing that. And they can't be open. Does anybody know? She says, we're okay on supplies for now, Lala just said. Good stuff, Lala. Well, if there's any way that our group can help you, Lala, come on here and tell us what we need. And we have smart and resourceful people on here that'll figure out how to get it to you. We love you and thank you so much. Does anybody have a question? Any specific question that they'd like an answer to before we sign off today? Kind of just a check-in session.
Hey, Julie, your idea of taking the skill set of the tenant really makes sense. I'm actually just have the tenant doing the landscaping in exchange for a reduction in rent. That actually works out real well for us.
Are you talking, Thomas, about what did you say, using?
So we usually, my son and I go and do the landscaping for our rentals.
Yeah.
And now we just basically delegate that to the tenant for a portion of the rent.
Great.
So
that's exactly it.
Because you know, if you look in your yard, things start growing. So now it's a good time. And then every time they mow the lawn, they're going to know that, hey, there's a little favor being done between, you know, two of us. And actually, it works out real well.
I think it's fantastic. If you guys take this to heart and you guys start doing some sort of barter trade with your tenants, come back next week or in the following month and tell us what that is. We'd love to hear those stories, just to have ideas of how we can. It's interesting. The barter thing is very interesting. I think a very valuable thing, and creates great feelings between people too, because relationships are going to be most important here. One thing we didn't touch on today is trying to do our best as a community to avoid the them versus us mentality that can be very, very dangerous for our business, our society going forward in regards to rentals like this, somehow getting out in front of this rent strike. Does anybody know any update or anything to the rent strike movement that was happening? What's the update? Anybody hear anything there? Oh, Kai came up with a great idea. That's a great idea. Kai said we should come up with a local Fiverr. If anybody has ever used Fiverr, if you guys know what we're talking about, maybe there's a way to use Fiverr to do what we're talking about with our tenants. Just an idea. Something, Kai, I'd be happy to talk to you about that offline. That's a great idea as a resource and a platform.
Julie, you're asking about the rent strike. Very, very localized. I was actually on a conference call with some of the most progressive elected officials in, there was Tammy Morales from the city of Seattle, San Francisco, LA, Boston, Minneapolis, and New Orleans, that they're trying to organize a nationwide, basically, moratorium on rent and mortgages. I don't think it's going to get anywhere. The one thing that I did pick up on, and I video recorded or screen recorded the entire press conference, that Tammy Morales was getting really pissed off with people making offers to buy houses in her district from people. I presume I'm below market, but I was just like, she used the expression disaster capitalism. And I was just like, people don't have to sell. They can turn around and say no. You know, I just didn't get that.
Right. So Tanya's asking, is anyone taking deals, flips, and investments or talking about that? What are you guys doing? Go ahead, Rochelle.
Let's see here. I've got a great investment property in Pittsburgh. It's 39 doors, 1.2 million, Section 8. So it's got about a 20% cash on cash owner finance. So I think it's fantastic. So looking to JV with somebody on that. So I'm still trying to move forward. So one of our Ren ladies down out of LA, she just bought an $850,000 house with a 1.3 ARV, and she's moving forward. I think kind of got to me, but yeah, still moving.
How many people here are in the middle of a project and wondering what to do? Lika, do you have any projects that you're in the middle of?
I have an addition that is obviously stalled. We can't do any construction on it, but it's a long-term hold, so I'm okay on that. I think my focus is just shifted to buying more rentals. And now is really the time to do that.
What are the rules, guys, right now on, because I don't have any flips in progress. What are the rules for construction workers right now?
Construction is not essential unless it's like a plumbing leak or an electrical failure. It's not essential.
So unless it's like a life safety or structural maintenance type of thing,
Right.
then it's a no-go. So no painting, no drywallers out there, that sort of thing, right? And hopefully you guys are all following the rules on that. We're not going to get into the moral debate of who's doing what, but we're just going to state the facts. It's not allowed right now. And so hopefully we're all good actors on that, including, as Christopher says, turning rentals. You're not, how do you turn a rental right now? Because you can't get a painter in there. What about carpet cleaning? Is carpet cleaning is considered cleaning? Not carpet cleaning isn't considered. Is there a cleaning companies at all that are allowed to show up?
Not as far as I know.
Anybody have anything to say?
Hey, Julie, I've got 3 flipped right now that are on standstill. One of them we just bought, so there's no construction going on anyways. But we have 4 clients as well that we're doing remodels for, and we've actually applied for an exemption to the building law because one of the clients they don't have a kitchen right now, and so we're not allowed to go in there and finish the framing and all the additional things we need to do. And so they're kind of stuck, which is unfortunate. And I know through the Master Builders Association, a bunch of the emails that we're getting on that they are providing some contractors variances for different reasons for that. So we've applied, and we're hoping to get that. And if we do, we'll definitely be helping those families out with the kitchen, and we'll consider.
Kevin Ackerman just says the Northwest MLS is asking the governor to make construction an essential activity. right now. So I don't know, you
The
know.
Federal Department of Homeland Security lists construction as an essential business. Washington doesn't. I believe California does. There's a lot of states that do consider it. Washington doesn't. So I think that my personal thought is, you know, especially, you know, if it's a vacant house and you limit how many subcontractors are in a house, similar like we're doing with the real estate industry and having with the showings and stuff, it can we can still keep the social distancing and continue moving forward with that. You know, we'd have a lot of subcontractors that are, you know, struggling right now because of it. So
Awesome. Justin, can you share how you're applying for the exemption Lika's asking?
There's a, you know, I Googled it and then there was a link and we just apply. I had my assistant do it. So she, you know,
Well, maybe you can, maybe next week or on the Seattle Investors Club Facebook page, if you get any more information you can share, that would be great. Or
there's a ton of I mean, you have to be a general contractor, but there's a ton of information on the Master Builders Association as well. But it's I don't know. What I don't know is if it's a case by case, project by project basis, or if it's like, okay, now I'm my dad's working on a food processing plant in Marysville, and they got an exemption because they're building a food processing plant. So, but that's a huge commercial project, and they're only doing the dirt work right now. So, so we'll see.
David, Hugh, you want to speak up? David, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
So a couple points I wanted to make. The Fiverr thing that you guys want to do for renters to share their, I mean, that can easily be done, because if you guys start to try to create a website and all of that, it might take a while. That could easily be done with a Facebook group. I mean, all the background that you guys need, or you know, it doesn't have to be Facebook or something else. That everything is there. And the other point I wanted to make is, I own a construction company, and I do mostly of what I do is design and build. But I also have a side that is a handyman. So my company is broken into two. And so the design and build, I stopped the projects. I had 4 projects. I paused them all because it just makes no sense to send people right now, you know, and especially for that. But for the handyman, I'm still sending people out depending on the project and all of that. I've been trying to read the rules the best as I can. And I don't know, in my experience, we went and repair a roof recently that it was falling down, and we had to go to Home Depot, and I seen everybody who I know working construction out there. So I don't really think that many people are actually stopping. I actually saw people I talked to people who were buying tile and who were buying paint, and so I really think that they should, you know, do better rules on that. All I'm saying is, right now, I haven't heard of anybody being stopped by the police or being stopped by anybody. I think what is going on is everybody has to make their own decisions. I'm only doing the handyman stuff because people really need that. But I know a lot of people are doing more than that. So that's it for me.
There's got to be something that's come out about construction. Does anybody know anything specific, or is it just, there's got to be a governor's directive on this? I'm not paying attention to construction because I'm not in construction. Is there?
So last week we have
they're lobbying hard.
Go ahead, Thomas.
So last week I have code enforcement visited one of my churches, and the guy was real friendly. He basically just going around, make sure that people are not building new houses, and that's exactly what he said. So he said the way he's enforcing, at least in his area in Seattle, is anything that you're doing to protect the integrity of the property is okay. If you are putting in a new roof, if you are putting in siding because the old siding was broken, and you know there's a potential there, water damage, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, you are okay as long as you're not actively building a new, you're not building an extension of some sort, or you're not replacing, anything that are non-critical. So if you think of it, let's say if, my, one of my houses, if we have to replace the furnace, that's perfectly okay, but I just cannot build a new deck.
Christopher Garnett just posted the governor's guidance on construction. He says it's very clear. Christopher, can you unmic yourself? Christopher Garnett?
Yeah, I'm unmiked. Sorry, and I just sent a link to another website for the governor, and basically it's just the reporting form. So if you catch a contractor doing work, you're supposed to report them, and instantly threatening to take your license, which is a big deal if you're in the middle of a flip. But this is one of the only industries that the governor clarified on. So he's being super strict, specifically with anyone in the construction industry.
And what are those rules, Christopher, if you can share?
Unless you're going in to fix something like electrical or an active water leak, you're not supposed to be in there. So all construction's at a halt.
What about roofs?
It doesn't say. I would think that if you have a leaking roof, you're just fine. If you're doing any sort of repair to a roof that isn't actively leaking, you could find yourself in trouble.
So we have, we reached out, the website I think that you're looking for is wad.mil.gov. It's essentially you're applying with the National Guard to get approval. And so, we wrote in because we had a house that did have a leaking roof, had extensive water damage, and, we had a big hole in the floor. And so that was definitely under health and safety. And they replied back kind of ambiguously, like, well, figure it out yourself. It either falls under health and safety or it doesn't. If it does, go ahead and do it. Obviously, you're not going to paint anything right now, but getting it to a point where what the feedback was, getting it to a point where you have one working bathroom, you can have a kitchen so the house is livable until the governor's order is lifted, then it sounds like you're good to go. But to each their own in figuring that out.
Yeah, I just want to be clear here, guys, that we are not giving anybody here specific advice. I want to just make sure you understand that you need to verify all this on your own, and that this is not, meant to be, you take this information. We're just talking here as a group of peers. William, go ahead. You just posted something if you want to say something.
Sure, sorry, it's me. That was just the governor's advice on construction, but everybody should have that information in the chat. One thing that I do want to let people know, landlords out there, is that the Attorney General's office is going after very hard landlords that are breaking the moratorium. I have a very good friend who's a real estate attorney, and one of his clients had a complaint. It got dismissed because the background circumstances, the person didn't pay in January and February. He had an eviction notice served against him before the moratorium, and the tenant complained that he was breaching the moratorium, and the investigator from the Attorney General's office dismissed it. So the Attorney General's getting a lot of, or is following up on any complaints, both for landlords and on construction. So I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that. There was one situation, oddly enough, it was a non-profit apartment building that they sent out a letter saying, we're basically ignoring the moratorium. We're going to, instead of sending you a 14-day pay or vacate notice, we're going to send you a 10-day comply or vacate notice. And the manager got fired over that. So I just wanted to let people know. The other one is, just stay safe out there. We have had the instance last week of the landlord up in Everett being murdered by a tenant.
Whoever's in their car, turn off their mic. Yeah.
So, the landlord up in Everett that was murdered, it's a terrible situation. Hopefully it's very unique. Obviously, the tenant that murdered him wasn't playing with a full deck of cards. But I think a lot of people are on edge right now. So, if you can, we are trying to, first of all, we're not going out to units unless it's an absolute emergency. But second of all, we got a one tenant that we have issues with, and that's as much as I'm going to say. And we have a recommendation that we won't let one person go to that unit, which is difficult when you're trying to do social distancing.
I have a vacant unit that I'm trying to get rented here in Ballard, and I keep getting all these contacts through Zillow, and I am feeling as though concerned, like if I do or say anything wrong, that somebody's going to turn me in, right? That's my fear of doing this. So I mean, I'm almost inclined to, I posted mine on the Northwest MLS, my rental on there. And honestly, I feel like I'd almost prefer agent coming. I'm happy to pay an agent to rent my unit. And I feel just because it gives me a level of protection from who this person is. And, for some reason, I feel like it's a more safer way to rent right now is having another party involved rather than me dealing directly with somebody.
The other big uptick that RHA is seeing is a huge amount of scam going on with people that have units available for rent, and people applying the usual. Well, I'm out of state. I'll rent it sight unseen, and you just got to be really careful.
All right, guys. Well, we're over our time limit today. We have links for construction guidance. We have donation links for if you guys want to donate supplies. We have all kinds of great stuff here that people have been putting in the chat box that we're going to grab and share with you guys. And we appreciate you coming on today. And let's just stay in touch. I think, the idea of, somebody likes these barter ideas or something like that with our tenants. Maybe there's something to be done there. Staying in touch in regards to just what we're seeing when the rents stop getting paid. It sounds like everybody's doing pretty good this month on collecting their rent. So if we can get out in front of this by sharing stories with each other and maybe kind of get an early read and an early feel of what's going on, if we just stick together and keep the conversation open. If somebody had a question that they did not get answered today, that they want feedback on, and you didn't get to ask that question today, whatever the topic is, feel free to call me at 206-910-2985 or email me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com. And if I don't know the answer, I'll certainly reach into my I have a deep Rolodex of contacts here, and happy to connect you with anybody that I know that can help bring clarity to any of the conversations. Or even I'm happy to get on a 3 or 4-way call with people that I know can help you. And if I can help facilitate that for you, I am happy to do that. Feel free to reach out to me, as I know that all of you on here today are willing to help each other as well. And thank you again. And Lika, go ahead and tell us one more time about your meetup that's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm going to post a link on our chat group, but it's, we have 4 amazing panelists that are coming on. We're going to be asking them questions about the health of our current industry and where they see this headed. One of them is a lender, the CEO and founder of a lending startup. And I think he has some great insight on, how bonds would affect our market going forward. So I would just encourage all of you to show up and listen in. And if you can't make it, we will have a recording. But yeah, I'll send in a link here. Oh, I think Neil already did.
Joe says he's going to send the link to the post that has has this recording of today's call, of today's meeting, plus the 15+ links that we have all loaded into the chat box here today. And Joe's going to send that link out. So awesome stuff, Joe. And thank you, Lika. And we look forward to hearing that information tomorrow. And let's all stay connected. Thanks for participating in the discussion, everybody. And we'll see you next time. And thank you, Lala. Stay safe. We love you. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.